Hello and welcome back to Books of Carol Ann. Today we are going to go through Tarah DeWitt's books and everything that I absolutely adore about her books. Rootbound, the first book by Tarah DeWitt, is actually a cowboy romance, and I think a lot of people forget about that when they make their list. This actually will have a new cover coming soon, I believe. I don't think it has had a rewrite like a few of Tarah's backlist, but the new cover is absolutely gorgeous and definitely one to pick up with the old cover or the new cover. In Rootbound, we follow Tate, who is a recent divorcee and has also been estranged from her family for many, many years. With her newly single life, she has now followed her passion, which is photography, and is starting to make an actual life and career out of it, and she is somewhat happy with the life that she's now living. She doesn't necessarily think that something's missing, but you sort of can feel it in the way that she sees the world. She gets an assignment for a photography of the Logan farm, which is the farm that her estranged family owns. She is not entirely sure whether they know that they've hired her specifically or if they've just hired a photographer that just happens to share the same name. So she doesn't really know what to expect when she goes there, but what she knows that she expects is to stay away from the family and just get the job done. She doesn't think that she needs to actually get to know the family in order to do her job. And so she just goes level-headed and does what she does best, which is her photography. In enters Henry. Henry is the cowboy who has dedicated his life to maintain the Logan family ranch. He owes them so much for many things that they have done for him throughout his life and for him to being the man that he is today. He's very protective of the family, and when Tate arrives and he understands that she is the long lost family member that has never had any interest in being part of their family, he very much tries to keep her away from the family in order to protect them. In order to keep her away from the family, he ends up having to stay close to her and very close at some points. So this is the second book that I read of Tarah. Funny Feeling was the first book that I read, and I wasn't yet accustomed to Tarah absolutely ripping my heart out and putting it back together. In this one, after this, I knew now. I knew what to expect. Tarah just loves breaking my heart and putting it back together. She has just a way with words that make you feel the absolute most, is able to just really portray so many feelings within one character. There's just so much character development in all of Tarah's books that it's absolutely impossible not to absolutely sob at her books. This has the perfect amount of angst, of funny, of sweet, of spicy. It is literally everything you could want packaged into, in this case, a cowboy romance. Funny Feelings by Tarah DeWitt. I absolutely adore this book. This is what introduced me to Tarah and her writing, and I have not looked back since. In this book, we follow Farley, who is a stand-up comedian, an up-and-coming one, and she is hilarious. We absolutely adore her. Her manager, Mayor, is a retired stand-up comedian who sort of left the scene at his peak because he wanted to look after his daughter, who happens to be deaf, and he's just never looked back. But Farley found him and needed him to be her manager, so she begged him, and here they are. It's worked out well for Farley because she has the opportunity of a lifetime to be the opening act for a very famous female comedian who also happens to be in the works of a Netflix comedy documentary. The only issue is that they need her in order to sign her on to up her publicity a bit more and to become a bit more famous. Their solution for that is for her to date Mayer, her manager. How Hollywood of them. Farley doesn't know how she feels about that. She doesn't want to force Mayer out in the public eye. She doesn't want for his daughter to be in the public eye. She just doesn't want to force them to do anything that they wouldn't want. Mayer really sees the opportunity in that, and he volunteers because he just loves her so much. She doesn't know that yet though, but we do. We can see it. We know. It's all in the actions, in the words. We know. It's actually really funny because I have one tab in this and it's so this is chapter 30. So if this is near the end, so if you don't want to see it, skip for the next 10 seconds. But look at this. It's just so cute. I absolutely adore this book. The cover is absolutely gorgeous. I really want to get this special edition that Bookish Box has just released. I just need some adult money, unfortunately. The Co-op. So, little PSA before I start on this one. In the US, they have a new cover and a rewritten version of this book. I have not read the rewritten version, so everything I say is based on the original one. I have, however, pre-ordered the new co-op because it is finally coming in the UK. So stay tuned, and I'll definitely add to this video if I can somehow. I don't know how it works, but I will definitely be talking about the rewrite of the co-op because I absolutely adore this book and I'm really looking forward to what Tarah has done to it. And I'm sure that whatever she's added will break my heart, but such is life. So there we go. In the co-op, we follow Lorraine and Deacon. They had a bit of a summer fling when they were teenagers, long time ago, and have parted ways in, the worst possible way that a summer fling can end. As all summer flings end. It didn't end well, and they parted ways and never talked to each other ever again. Unfortunately for them, their grandmothers have left them the shared ownership of a dilapidated building in Santa Cruz. Now, Lorraine has the money in a trust, but in order to access this trust, she needs to be married. And Deacon, he's got the construction expertise. He doesn't really have the money. They don't really get along, and they are very bitter to what happened 10 years prior. But however, in order to be out of each other's lives the quickest way possible, they only have one solution: get married, access the funds from the trust, restore the shared building, and get out of each other's lives. Lorraine doesn't have the funds right now though, so in order to best use the money that she has in order to restore the house, she makes a point to live in the building, which doesn't currently have walls, so it's not great for privacy. They both live in it because Deacon also wants to use every single woken hour that he has to work on the building. I absolutely adore this book because it was so funny. I mean, honestly, you're gonna just hear me talking about this with Tarah DeWitt, although the next book that I'm talking about, maybe not so funny. But in this book, it was very much putting the calm in the rom-com. It was just so ridiculous at points, but absolutely just perfect ridiculous, just absolutely hilarious. There's a scene which I think is the first time I went into Tara's DMs, or maybe I tagged her in my comments about it, but there is a scene where Loryn is so mad at Deacon that she decides to take his toothbrush, I gagged a little, and clean the toilet with it and then put it back. What? I'm absolutely traumatized by that. I don't know whether that made it into the new US version. I hope not for Deacon's sake, but I kind of hope so for Loryn's sake. I don't know. But that kind of gives you the vibes of their relationship and just how petty it became. And there's also a scene where Loryn is a bit lonely and she kind of takes care of herself. And unfortunately for her, she did not realize that Deacon could hear absolutely everything that was happening in her corner of the house. He thoroughly enjoys it though, so it's completely fine. This book is bonkers, but it's so sweet. It's so gorgeous. Just like all of Tara's books, they're all just absolutely amazing, written wonderfully, and I have no doubt that the new version is even more perfect, which I don't know how it is possible. I already adored this cover. The new cover is even more gorgeous. Hello, Deacon. But yeah, definitely read this one, and I will be talking about it more in my Marriage of Convenience video as well. Savor It, the latest released book by Tarah DeWitt. Look how absolutely gorgeous it is. In Savor It, we follow Sage Bird, who lives in Spoons, Oregon, not to be confused with Forks, Oregon. Sparkly vampires vibes. A small town, as we love them in Oregon and mostly in fiction. Sage is a quirky, fun girl next door who absolutely adores her animals, and she only has one aim for the summer: to participate in the Festival of Spoons, an annual summer competition, but she is lacking a partner. Fisher is a hotshot chef. Fisher is a hotshot chef. A hotshot chef in New York City, or he was until his sister passed away and left him absolutely just numb. From there, he just is incapable of running his restaurants. He just has no will to live at all. And unfortunately for him, he has also been left in charge of his teenage niece, who really needs him to snap out of it and actually take care of her. Fisher is in great danger of being fired from his restaurant, and actually, you know what, he is fired, but they do it a bit more gently than that and ask him to go consult for an opening restaurant in Spoons, Oregon, and they want him to oversee the construction of the restaurant, put together a menu, and just, you know, it's not really said, but they want him to get his shit together so that he feel better and get back to being the hotshot chef that they know him to be and pay him the big bucks for. So Fisher and his teenage niece decide to go to Spoons, Oregon for the summer as a holiday from New York City, a slower pace of life, and hopefully a way for both of them to tackle their grief and feel just a tad better. Fisher and Sage find in each other the perfect summer romance. Fisher moves in for the summer in the house next door to Sage, which has a really funny meet cute that I adored. And I absolutely adored that Fisher meets Sage's brothers before he gets to meet Sage. So it's kind of a little bit intimidating, and very embarrassing from the way that this meet cute is done, which is very much in line with Tarah's humors and what she has shown us in all the other books. I can't say that this book is as funny as the others. However, there are touches of humors. There is a geese that happens to be in love with Fisher's teenage niece. There are a few things here and there that are absolutely hilarious and that kind of sprinkle in Tarah's humor. Overall, I would say that this is Tarah's most emotional book. And I just feel like you can tell from the cover, like the purple and the pinks and the way that they pose, just, you know, make you feel a lot more the grief and the sadness that this book brings forward. There are trigger warnings to grief and loss and everything that goes with it in this book. I thought it was wonderfully done and absolutely just gorgeous. This is very much a summer romance. It feels so summery when you read it, and I don't know if you've ever gone to Oregon, but this really just gives you the vibes of how it is in the Pacific Northwest. I've lived in Seattle and I absolutely adore that part of the world. I also love that you see glimpses of some of the other couples that Tarah has written. I believe there's a Easter egg of the co-op and Funny Feeling in this, but I actually don't remember what the Funny Feeling is one, but I definitely remember the co-op, and it was very funny. This is the first interconnected series that Tarah is working on. The next book, Left of Forever, is connected to this. So this is Sage Bird. And in Left Off Forever, we follow Ren and Ellis Bird, a divorced couple. And this is actually a perfect segue for me to tell you a little bit about Left Off Forever. I believe it's out at the end of May in 2025, and I've had the chance to read it already. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's one of my favorites that Tarah has written. In Left Off Forever, we follow Ren and Ellis Bird, a divorced couple who has been divorced for a couple of years now, and the reason they got divorced is for their inability to have a second child. They've gone through IVF and it just has not worked out for them. They initially got together when they were just teenagers after an accidental pregnancy and decided to get married from there. In Left Off Forever, you see them forcibly back together because their son is going off to college and requires their help in order to move into college. Before that happens, there's a bit of an epistolary romance. So Ellis is a firefighter and is sent to California to fight some really bad fires. I won't tell you too much about Left Off Forever because it's not out yet, but please make sure you pick it up when it is out because it is absolutely incredible. And Tarah absolutely shines in second chance romance. Definitely, I don't think there's anyone who's ever written second chance the way that she has. And that was Tarah DeWitt for you. Have you read her books before? Which one is your favorite? And if you haven't yet, which one that I've talked about made you want to pick up her books? Let me know in the comments. And of course, thank you for watching and see you next time.